All right, we are live. One day we'll get that slight little awkward pause done.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll master our what were they called? Our faces, our our live stream faces.
Our YouTube. Oh, how are you,
everybody?
Yeah.
It's good to see you, Lenny. It's good to be chatting with you always.
Ditto. So the actually just got off call real quick. Somebody else brought up that they are really enjoying these. So
good.
just a little. So hopefully our audience.
It's not just you and I.
It's not just you and I enjoying this. There's other folks, but all right, we got a lot to cover.
Yeah, and here's why. If you sense like Lenny and I are like, like a little mellower today, we were just saying before we started recording, we have to get the energy up. But this week, as we curate kind of throughout the course of the week things to talk about, this week seemed to have like definitely a Halloween mood to it. Like there was just a lot that's like, like pretty much like, haunted house kind of spooky stuff. So we're going to talk about some spooky stuff. And I promise at the end, I'm like, let's talk about some good stuff too. So,
Yes.
so hopefully it's not all terrifying. And, we're not just doing like trick or treat. So,
yeah.
right.
We're going to talk about the ghosts in the machine a lot, I think. Yeah. Maybe that's the...
right? Ooh. Anyway. Oh my gosh, sorry. You throw me back every now and then. I'm like, no, let's go. Friday, I'm in love. Like we could probably go to like our anyway, dark music side. Okay. You shared an article with me that earlier this week that was about the underground world of black market AI chatbots. So, last week we're talking about these chatbots and we're, talking about that whole world of what's happening there. And then all of a sudden this article comes to light about these black market AI chatbots. Now, it's not immediately clear what the implications are for Insights, which is where I want to go with the conversation. But basically, in this article Lenny shared, which we'll share out, they're talking about, we've been thinking about the job displacement and biases and the things that we need to be on the lookout for with generative AI. But this article is stating that some experts are sounding the alarm about the growing number of black market AIs that are tailored for cybercrime. So heads up, as consumers, as humans, we need to be like, all right, let's be paying attention. But also, what's our implication for Insights professionals in this whole world? Lenny, what do you think?
I think there were two that really, that's why I shared it. Was one, obviously the potential for fraud at scale.
Yeah.
Right. We've been talking about that for weeks now.
Yes.
And money can be made.
Yeah.
So talk about synthetic respondents, artificial respondents. Well, here's, truly bot, fake respondents.
Yeah.
So that's one obvious one. And if we think that people aren't already doing that, then we are fooling ourselves.
Yeah. So, fooling ourselves for sure.
Yeah. And I think the other is, and this we'll have to see, is the impact on consumer engagement from a recruitment standpoint.
Yeah.
If folks do recognize, you think, it's not the Nigerian prince, it's a whole other level of really sophisticated.
Yeah.
Right.
Phishing scams are huge right now.
Yes.
They're just going to get worse. And so how are our people that we're inviting into some of our research studies going to determine what's real and what's not? And how is that going to affect our response rates, which already leave room for improvement?
Right. I mean, the recruitment, component could be challenging. And that would apply not just to online, but I don't know about you, but I get AI spam calls all the time.
Yeah.
And they are obviously, it is scripted. It is that is happening. So even if we try to say, oh, we'll go back to some type of telephone.
Yeah.
So I think we need to pay attention to these types of issues, because fundamentally we are in the engagement business. That is the core of what we do. Without, we need to get respondents to participate. They have to be real respondents. It has to be high quality. These things are threats to that entire component that is foundational and fundamental to the insight space. So,
and I mean, check out our articles. There is, the beginning of the trend, but we are seeing right now currently, a lot of editorial content coming our way that is focused on trust. and the need to build trust, to grow trust, and proving that you are trustworthy. So, just kind of thinking about that as being potentially the word that we are going to have to focus on for the rest of the year, if not, next year and forward.
Sure. Well, and there's also, I mean, that's a whole can of worms we can't get much into today, but the idea of disinformation, misinformation, yada, 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 take that aside from, we think about that geopolitically, take that aside. Somebody decides just for the hell of it, they want to, go after a brand. And they utilize these tools to, to start to make 1 million posts across social media that, Acme Explosives, are employing, toddlers to test their product, whatever heinous thing you could think of, right? What would that do to brand perception? So, I mean, so the opportunities for manipulation, and impacting data and impacting, perception with these types of malicious actors that are doing it for whatever reason. But that's significant. So there really there's just a cascade of long tail effects that we can just begin to kind of see.
And to that end, just going down the catastrophic trail.
Let's go to the next spooky stuff. We're in the haunted house now.
Exactly. Like we just moved on to the second house. OpenAI formed a new team to assess the catastrophic risks of AI. So a preparedness team that's going to track, evaluate, forecast, and protect against potentially major issues. And by major, I'm talking, major, potentially even leading to like nuclear threats. Like we're going to gloom and doom at a very high level at this point. And I feel like we all thought this when this first happened. Like we quickly went to, oh no, what could possibly happen? But we dialed it back pretty quickly because we're like, that's just way too scary of a place to get to. And now that we've been living with this for a year, guess what? Like now it's like, all right, we really do need to face those threats. So one of the things in this article here about this is OpenAI CEO Sam Altman warned about these before. This isn't new news per se, although this new team is new, but he basically said back in May, mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority. So, you hear that and you're sort of like, all right, great. Happy Friday, friends.
I mean, I think the broader issue there is as we outsource decision-making. Right. Whether we're talking about, our digital assistants making reservations for dinner, right? All the way up to controlling infrastructure, or military components. I saw a thing last week. Marines are testing robot dogs with bazookas. With missile launchers on the road. It's like, did you not see the episode of Black Mirror? Did you not see that? Right. But point is that, what we have to find a balance between the human oversight and control across these systems, whatever it may be, right? Utilizing AI for analysis of open ends in our world. We still need to go through and read them ourselves and find, are we missing something but so there is a human oversight component that increasingly I think we have to make sure is necessary. We are not, the more we outsource decision-making and process, the more risk there is that something gets screwed up. So,
and friends, to bring you up to speed on that, Lenny and I firing stuff at each other, all day, every day, practically, and the robot dogs thing came across. But it was also the same week that we were talking about, we had both seen on, on some snippet Product Hunt, probably about, the Amazon testing a robot for their distribution system, which seems like a great use case. Actually, it's a step up from the little robot that goes around our grocery stores kind of following us around. This is actually providing a pretty good function, this particular Amazon distribution system robot. So to me, we have, shipping robot and we have, rocket launching dog robots. And I'm like, just because we can does not mean we should be.
It seems like folks don't always get the right message from the science fiction that inspired this stuff. Like they're usually cautionary tales.
Cautionary tales. All right, great segue. I'm going to use that as our segue into the next. Like, what else was scary this week? The article Crispin Beale wrote on. He wrote it for the Insights Association, published this week on research horrors. So again, sorry that this is what's happening, but this is what was in the universe last week in our world, right? So Christian's article, was talking about some of the things that are keeping people in the industry up at night. And it spanned from, data quality issues and AI issues to, bad PowerPoint, bad PowerPoints in general. But a few cautionary tales for insights professionals, which I wanted to talk about, and then see if there was anything else that stood out to you, Lenny. Okay. Pam Harrison, Senior Consumer Insights Manager at Beiersdorf. And I have brand love for that because I used to work with the team here in our Norwalk, Connecticut office. But vendors using OpenAI platforms with their proprietary data. So like back away from ChatGPT if you are a researcher working with your but like you just have to maintain that ethical line because that's what she's afraid of, right? And it's probably a very valid fear because we're doing everything out there without that control. So I thought that was huge. Justine Clemente, Consumer Insights Manager at Samsung Electronics in Australia. Decorative qualitative, which is people using very small scale qual to provide color, which, invalidates the entire field if it's not used the right way. Monica Tenoria, VP Insights Analytics and Marketing Capabilities at PepsiCo in Switzerland. She feels chased as she's inundated with calls from suppliers. Back off, friends. Like, leave these brands alone. Like, there was so much going on in this article. So, like, pretty cool to know what keeps people up at night, right? What else? Yep. What else stood out to you in that? Anything different or just more of the same?
More of you definitely captured kind of the overall themes. It's interesting, those same ideas. That was not a snapshot in time. Those are themes that are running through every other data source that I pay attention to. We had similar things come up in Grit. They always do.
Yeah.
But the conversations that I've been having this past week, it's been a really, really busy week, and there's lots of just interesting stuff happening. It's the same ideas, right? The same concepts. They are percolating through the industry, and make no mistake, anyone who's been dismissing the pace of change and the concern that pace of change is generating, you are wrong. Sorry, just put it out there. You're wrong. So there's never been such an accelerated disruptive period in my 23 years in the industry. Nothing even close. Now, there's a long tail of effects. It may take a while for things to kind of go out. But we are riding a wave, and you need to look down and recognize that wave is there, and it is affecting every single business in this industry. Period. And these are the types, to tie back into that there are concerns that we have to recognize while we're navigating that. I love the bright, shiny new things as much as anybody else, but sometimes they've got sharp edges, and we are discovering the sharp edges, and we must pay attention to those things.
And recognize that in that kind of time of disruptive change that we're going through, it's stressful for people, right? So there's these, we may say lightly, this keeps me up at night, and maybe it truly does, or maybe it's just the most annoying thing, but recognize that everybody is in this period of change at the same time and responding differently on the daily, right? So, today might be a day when we're thinking about some of the dark sides of AI or some of the dark sides of what AI is enabling us to do. And then tomorrow we might feel really hopeful about what it's enabling for us. So we never know how people are feeling in the moment with what they're dealing with. So
there is if I want to play off one more thing, because it just occurred to me a connection there. Yesterday, I did a podcast with Dr. Uri Gneezy, and by the time it's not live yet, but and he's a behavioral economist, and he talked about the need to have a chief common sense officer. And which I just thought was just really cool. I don't know if I'm a candidate for that, but I raised my hand.
Yeah.
And the point was to.
Hold on. Can we just sit with that for a minute? You want to be our chief common sense?
I know I'm the crazy one, right?
I'll move on. I just have
I didn't say that I said I may not be a candidate, but
they
may look like your skill set is not a match. but the point is, I think we're busy. We're in our lives. We're living our lives. We're doing our jobs, and it's hard to raise our heads up and look around sometimes and see, oh, wow, what's really going on? So I really encourage everybody. There needs to be somebody in your organization that part of their job is to pay attention to what's going on, to absorb content. This is what we're doing. We're trying to help you with that, with this, because then we're not blindsided.
Right.
We can, when you see the truck coming, you can take evasive action, or determine whether it's a threat or not. So all of these things that we're talking about, and these fears, these kind of amorphous stuff that's all kind of bubbling inside us in the zeitgeist, having somebody who's paying attention helps. Somebody who's working on the business, not in the business, I think is really, really critical, and encourage you to have someone who's doing that, and that will help to evade some of these concerns, some of the scary stuff that's popping up.
Well, and even with the speed of business, take a moment, kind of, universal unsolicited advice is take a moment and pause before you act and think through, is there a consequence for this? Before you put data into, ChatGPT, think for a moment, is there any potential downside with me adding this data into the world? Do I need to protect somebody or something or the world? Think before you send an email. Is this really the right thing for me to do? Reach out blindly to somebody at a big brand because I desperately want to tell them about my platform, really? Or us, for example. There's a lot that people try to sell to you and I, and we're like, we are not your audience. We are, in case you did not know, we are media, and it's great to know about you, but it's not the right audience. So pause before you do things, I think, is just the universal advice right now. We all need to just be deliberate and mindful before we take actions, because this straight of steps, the rate of stress that we're in and how fast we're moving can have consequences.
So let's add one more thing. That's important. The guys, features don't sell. Benefits sell. So when we're reaching out, and in this time of change, of disruption, and there's going to be that can be uncomfortable for everybody, right? Whenever we're engaging, whether it's a client or a prospect, or even your colleagues, coworkers, think about the benefit, and that benefit is, we're solving a problem, and sometimes that problem is people internally going, "Oh shit," right? For whatever reason. So I'm part of that. We're live. I occasionally cuss. Think about that, right? And bake that into your messaging, bake that into your marketing, bake that into all of your communications. What's the benefit that you can provide and deliver? So that's always going to come across better than trying to pitch a widget.
Right. Exactly. A widget to somebody who's not really in the market for widgets.
Right. I mean, I may see it later on and think, oh, I wish I'd gotten that widget. But at the time, I'm not thinking I need that widget. I'm thinking I need to solve this problem.
Right. All right. Let's jump off of this into solving problems, right? Because I do want to shout out Steve Phillips for his LinkedIn post about synthetic data. And as you're talking, I'm sitting here thinking, it does solve a problem, right? So here, let's go into this with our eyes opened, right? Like with this whole, okay, there is a problem that it is solving, although we have to be really trepidatious, right? So for those of you not following Steve Phillips on LinkedIn, he shared an article this week from Marketing Week discussing the ripples, the very real ripples that synthetic data is making. And his suggestion is that this is probably the greatest threat to the insights industry as we know it. I'm cool with speaking in hyperbole, the greatest opportunity to make marketing very agile and much more effective. So here we are, we've got creative tension in synthetic data, right? And you and I both responded, but why don't you kind of kick off and share a little bit about how this is meeting a need at the same time we have to be mindful and careful.
Yeah, I mean, I think the essence is we have not owned data for a very long time.
Yeah.
Right. The research was one of the primary conduits for information. That ship sailed 10 years ago.
Yeah.
What in the era of big data, right?
Yeah.
And we've said it before. The problem was that synthesizing that information was a challenge technologically and process standpoint. It's not now. That is the essence of generative AI and the solutions underneath it, is to synthesize information and give you answers to a query in a conversational form. Okay, so so what does that mean when we are not the primary conduits for information? And you recognize that we can ask questions that are relevant to the business utilizing existing data sources. Then that is going to take a bite of the pie, right? From a budget standpoint. And it will change and drive the research industry to adapt into delivering information that is not readily available.
Right.
And that is different. That is, we do that, we do it all the time. But we also do a buttload of tracking and testing and normative database work and yada 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 of information that is existed. We have amassed large databases. We have lots of information on respondents. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
All of those things now can be leveraged via synthetic respondents. We can model it. We can do all of those things. We can get early stage information on kind of foundational, on market structure and perception and. That one of the examples that Steve shared, and there was a brand study that used synthetic respondents. It was 80% match to live respondents.
Yeah.
So there's, from a business standpoint, there's going to be changes. So the nature of how we ask questions, the nature of the questions that we ask, the number of questions that we ask, which guys, for anybody who's not really familiar, what drives supplier pricing is ultimately time. So, right. Ultimately, that's what it is. A 10-minute survey is different than a 5-minute survey, and so a 20-minute survey, and blah blah blah. All those things are in there. So he's right. He is right. And I think that the point, and it goes back to the previous point, the pace of change. This is not a new thing. Yables and everybody's been talking about this all year. Yeah. But we thought, we got 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we had a few months.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the it's happening now. Yeah. It'll take a while to scale. I'm not saying, oh my God, 2024, if you're, in primary research that you're screwed. Not what I'm saying, but it will force change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we will have to think about delivering what I've been calling last mile data, filling in the gaps of information, driving, understanding at a deeper level that we, those types of things. And that will change us methodologically. It will change, our survey is going to look more like chats, probably. Is the lines between qual and quant going to blur even more? Yes. Yeah. All those things. So we need to start adapting to that reality to get ahead of that change.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great thread, and it's thought provoking, and I encourage everyone to take a look at it. It's one of those examples of, yes, let's leverage this new technology and kind of new methodologies even for a greater good and to meet needs, right? So let's kind of wrap this show up with just a few of these. I mean, you see, there were so many things that were announced this week in terms of the good that AI is doing in terms of practical use cases.
Too many for us to even go through, I think.
Right. So I'm going to summarize, when I look at this list, I got most excited about Kantar Public launching their AI data synthesis tool in partnership with Faculty AI, because, you know, really, and then, you know, a similar launch from Fuel Cycle, unveiling their new generative AI-based functionality. Both of those are going to be specific to help synthesize qualitative data. The Fuel Cycle one is going to allow researchers to craft executive summaries right from in the platform. Anybody who has ever moderated a community will be like, wait a minute, like now I'm going to have this built into my communities. That's such a score. Like to get AI assist for large sets of qualitative data is going to be a researcher's dream. So like I'm most excited about those qualitative tools.
Sure.
Personally, like I saw those and I thought, yeah, those are game changers for the qualitative researchers in my life, you know. Gosh, which ones do you want to talk about? There's so many on here.
I mean, they all were. I do think that the Figma one is interesting. The for somebody who's not
the QOQO.ai, the Coco AI.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's Adobe building in AI-based, you know, UX testing, right?
User personas, journey maps, affinity maps, discussion guides, et cetera, et cetera. So those are really great applications of this, this AI. The perceptual maps paper, I don't even know where you found that paper, but, you know, for anybody who's ever done perceptual mapping, that's a great thing to consider. And that was also a paper that explained how similar the two ways of getting at a perceptual map were, synthetically or, you know, whatever you call it, you know, oh my gosh, what's the opposite of that? What's
that? Real?
It's not the scientific term, is it? But yeah, you know, that's a really great one. So yeah. And then, you know, just at a very basic level, SurveyMonkey with their, you know, AI assisted survey building tool. Like, so basically a DIY platform that just enabled you to make surveys more quickly is going to help you do them even more quickly. Like, all right, you know, way to go, SurveyMonkey.
Which is companies that did that early on, by the way. So I got to give a shout out. I mean, I think the first week, like in January, QuestionPro and Pollfish both had launched those. Right?
So, you know, I think what's interesting is, because I was thinking that too when I saw that one, I'm like, wait, SurveyMonkey hadn't done that already? That was new this week. And I was a little confused by that. But that's the thing, is some of these new product launches happen so quick, we might have missed it when we were still getting our heads around what was happening. And now it's like, oh, wait a minute, like more can do what we are just learning about than we know, because maybe it happened too quickly for us to get on board. So
maybe, well, and companies are different, right? So that was not a diss on SurveyMonkey at all. I think that there's definitely, there's people who just move fast and break stuff, right? In those companies, and they want to experiment and they're very visible about it. And that is fantastic and great. And then there's companies that, especially big, you know, big massive companies like SurveyMonkey, are like, hold on. Let's wait and see, right? We're going to follow through with this. And
we don't need to be first to market. We can take our time and do due diligence.
Right. Absolutely. And we're just going to see more of that. And I guess that, you know, and as usual, we're running up against time. I would say that the lesson in all of this is, if you've been waiting to implement AI into your solutions, you cannot wait, because it's already table stakes, guys. It already is. You know, we're still at this point where it's differentiated. But every day we see more launches like that, and the more and more people are doing things, you know, like this, the less differentiation it is. So, and then it's just table stakes. So, like, the car has a steering wheel. You know? Of course it does. So, you got to jump on this.
You do. You know, Matt and Patrick and Tim, I see you guys are chatting in LinkedIn. Thank you. Keep that conversation going. I think that I just also want to put into the universe that I'd love to have a week when Lenny and I don't say on Friday morning, do we have to talk about AI again?
I know. I think we call it the week in AI. Maybe we just need to rebrand
talk about the metaverse, like, you know, like
something.
Yeah, we go back to some other topics, but I don't know that we're going to. I just really want I'm putting it out there. Like, we'd love other things.
Send us news that is not AI based, guys, if that's possible. Please. Right. We would love to talk about something else, but this is the world that we are in. It is the defining technology for our era right now. Just is. So, and hopefully we're helpful in separating the signal from the noise and giving you some view on the stuff that we need to pay attention to.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, the exchange at greenbook.org, open for business, open for input, and Lenny and I will be checking that. And we're paying attention. So whatever you're putting out there, we'll probably be reading it or seeing it or hunting it down in our news feeds. So thank you everybody for contributing to an industry-wide conversation that we're happy to be a part of.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, everybody stay safe. We're in spooky times. So
happy early Halloween.
Yeah. Right. Do your hex against the evil eye, whatever, but everybody hang in there. We'll talk next Friday.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Thanks.
Bye, Lenny. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.